Welcome, my friends, to today's episode of Everyday Truth. Going to talk about money, going to talk about God, going to talk about temporary things, going to talk about eternal things. Let's find out, what does the Bible say about having a healthy eye, a healthy focus? Listen in.
Welcome to Everyday Truth with Kurt Skelly. We believe the Bible is true and relevant to everyone, everywhere, every day. If today's conversation is a help to you, take a moment to leave a review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening. Now, let's join Kurt for today's episode.
Hey friends, welcome back to today's episode. We're in Matthew chapter 6. Hey, just before we jump in today, I want to mention there's a few of you that over the years have sent a gift or two to Everyday Truth. It's a blessing, by the way. Thank you for that. And we've always strived to, and by God's grace, always will, just provide this podcast absolutely free to whoever wants to listen. But it is a help from time to time when a few have donated. And just know this, if you do donate to Everyday Truth, make the check out to Everyday Truth. We have a separate account under that name, and some have written checks to this person or to me personally, and I don't want that. If you'd like to help support the podcast, and again, I'm not asking for help, but if you do want to do that, it's Everyday Truth, and appreciate in advance anybody that would help. What a blessing. Obviously, the best way you can help is just listen and pass on to your friends and neighbors and loved ones and coworkers that we've got a podcast where we go through the Bible every day, and we believe the Bible changes lives. And I'm excited about the passage for today, Matthew chapter 6 and verse number 19. The Bible says this: "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is," here's the rationale, "for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." I love this passage because it's a passage of perspective, that we should not be living for wealth. We shouldn't be living just to accumulate more and more. Remember what Jesus said in Luke chapter 12 about that rich fool who had so much stuff, didn't know what to do with all of his stuff. So what did he do? He said, "I know what I'll do. I'll build bigger barns to store my stuff." And Jesus said, "Thou fool, thou knowest not that this night thy soul is required of thee." So Jesus is not saying that having stuff or even having a plan for retirement or investment is wrong. What he is speaking to is our motive. Our motive in life should not be stuff. Motive in life should not be more wealth. And he gives a couple of reasons for that. First of all, he says the amassing of physical wealth really is like putting stuff in a bag that has holes. Why? Because every material thing will eventually be burned up. It'll rust away. It'll fade away. And the Bible talks about in James chapter 5 that these rich men, woe to you rich men, your riches are cankered. It's rusty. It'll all go away in the end. And so we know this, that physical wealth has a shelf life, but spiritual wealth is eternal. So lay not up for yourselves. Don't live for stuff. Live for the will of God. Live for the things that outlast you. That's why Paul said to Timothy, "The love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith." Then it says, how does that go? Boy, I start quoting a verse, and I'm 58, folks. I'm losing it. But he said, follow after. Oh, I've got to look it up now. I can't even believe I forgot that verse. I've quoted it 1,000 times. Pray for me. I'm just getting old. Here it is, 1 Timothy chapter 6. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth. No, that's the verse in Matthew 6. Wow, I'm really losing it. 1 Timothy 6:10. "The love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. But thou, O man of God, flee these things and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness. Fight the good fight of faith. Lay hold on eternal life. So what is Paul saying? Timothy, live for the things that outlive you. Jesus said in another place, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. Later in that same chapter in 1 Timothy 6, it says, charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, which giveth us richly all things to enjoy, that they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate, laying up in store for themselves a good foundation against the time to come. In other words, use money to bless, use money for spiritual ends. Don't let money use you. So here in Matthew 6, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth. Why? Because it's not durable. Where moth and rust doth corrupt. Moth, obviously referring to clothing, and a way by which wealth was assessed or evaluated in Bible days was often with clothing. Remember that rich man that was dressed in fine linen and purple, Luke chapter 16, as where moth and rust doth not corrupt, where thieves do not break through nor steal. But when your whole life is centered on stuff, then you spend your whole life thinking about stuff and where am I going to store my stuff and how am I going to protect my stuff and how can I make my stuff last? Jesus said, what a horrible hamster wheel to live on. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Do you know that you can make decisions on earth that accrue to your benefit in heaven? Remember the story of Rumpelstiltskin? What did he do? He was able to spin straw into gold. Straw, worthless, flammable, non-durable, can be turned into gold. What a myth. Well, it's not a myth in the Bible because we can take our meager resources and our meager abilities and our meager, frail lives and turn them into gold as we invest in spiritual things. So this is a lesson on perspective. And then he says this, which I think is the most astounding part of the whole teaching. He says, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So the point here is that the things that you invest in, that's where your focus is. That's where your heart, that's where your affections lie. The things that you focus on. That's what matters to you. So maybe somebody that is in fantasy football, and is so concerned about winning his fantasy football league. Boy, he might be following the scores of all the games and wanting to know how all the players did. Why? He has a vested interest in that, right? Whereas somebody else would say, I don't care. I didn't even watch the game. So the point is that your heart follows your investment, not vice versa. So in Christian service, make the right investments. Invest in people, and that's where your heart will be. Sometimes people will say, well, I don't go to church. I don't feel like it. No. Don't allow your feelings to determine your investments. Allow your investments to determine your feelings. Your will should precede your emotion. And Jesus is teaching a great, important principle here, isn't he? So look at verse number 20, because this expands upon, verse number 22, this expands upon that. He says, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, whole, healthy, focused, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? So Jesus is talking here about single-minded focus. When we have a healthy eye, a healthy focus, he just talked about this, like on spiritual things, on eternal things, then that's going to have an effect upon our whole lives and our whole future. But when our focus is wrong, when our priorities are wrong, when we can't see properly. That's going to affect every single part of our life. And so Jesus is saying here, are you getting this? Hey, disciples of mine, are you getting this? May your focus be eternal, because when your focus is eternal, everything else will bear the fruit of that kind of proper and healthy focus. Now, if you would, I want you to see verse number 24, because I think this finishes this section, and then we'll look at verses 25 through 34 tomorrow. But look at verse number 24 as Jesus kind of ends this teaching about money and stuff versus eternal values and focus. He says in verse number 24, no man can serve two masters. Can't do it. In fact, he explains it this way. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Which masters is Jesus talking about? He's talking about the master of God, eternal things, or stuff, mammon, stuff, money, okay, temporary things. You cannot serve God and mammon. So Jesus is saying you can't live for yourself and stuff in this world and also be guided by and under the authority of and living for the will of God. They are mutually exclusive. You've got to be all in one. In fact, if you're serving both, you're really just serving stuff. If you're serving both, you're really not serving God at all. A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. And so what's the point? The point is your eye has to be single. Has to have a healthy, single-minded focus on the things of God. Maybe that would be your prayer today. Maybe your prayer today would be, Lord, help me to be single-minded. Lord, give me a healthy focus. Help me to see stuff in its proper perspective. If you have stuff, great, use it for the Lord. Nothing wrong with having stuff. There's everything wrong with stuff having you. See the difference? So yes, save. Yes, invest. Yes, have resources. But make sure that those resources are tools that you use for Him and not tools that the devil uses against you. Keep your focus on eternal things. Lift up your eyes. See what really matters. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. We're going to stop there for today in verse number 24. We'll pop into verse number 25 next episode. Hope you'll join us for that. God bless you, my friends.